Tell me, how many Arab countries have condemned what happened to those two babies and that mother? As far as I know, not one. How many are going to? None. Will the United Nations? No. Hello, America. I'm Mark Levin, and this is Levin TV. Welcome. Glad to have you here at Blaze Media. You remember those videos of October 7th in Israel, and certain things really stick in your mind. Remember the young lady who was on the motorcycle screaming for her life? She managed to get out, to be released. But there's another, many, but another in particular that sits in my mind, and that was a woman who was clutching her baby and her other child. That family's name is Bibas, B-I-B-A-S. The husband was taken, the mother was taken, the two baby children were taken. Everybody wondered, what happened to that 9 or 10-month-old baby? Changing its diaper, giving it formula? What are these hostages going to do with these kids? I want you to watch this. Go.
Okay, you know this beautiful family well by now. This is Shiri with her two sweet babies, Kfir and Ariel. She was a loving mother like any mother, her boys bringing her so much joy as they lived and grew up on Nir Oz kibbutz in Israel. They were cruelly and unforgivably kidnapped by Hamas barbarians on October 7. Kfir was 9 months old, just a baby, and Ariel was 4. This is how they left Israel, in the greatest of distress and fear and trauma and terror. But they were alive. Since that dreadful moment, they were dragged across the border into Gaza. Not a day has passed when we haven't thought about the Bibas family and held them in our hearts. I spoke with Yair Keshet, the uncle of Yarden Bibas, when I was in Israel, and he was desperate for the world to pay attention to this horrendous war crime. Baby Kfir, the world's youngest hostage.
Yeah, you can see him here. He was about the picture here. Baby is kidnapped. Baby is not a soldier. He's not a pilot. He's not everything. He's a little baby. Look at him.
Now, Dad Yarden came home on the 1st of this month without Shiri or their children. And his pain is about to get even worse. And we all are about to experience one of the most heartbreaking days since October 7. Hamas will return the bodies of mother Shiri Bibas and her 2 children.
So stop right here. They murdered those babies and they murdered the mother. That's what they did. That's what they did. Go ahead.
This is the true reality of Hamas, the governing body of Gaza, the place that Penny Wong wants to reward and recognize with statehood. There are truly no words that could possibly capture the depravity, the cruelty, the evil of these people who could take a mother and her babies, take them alive and return them in body bags. We love you, baby Kfir. We love you, Ariel, and we will never, ever forget you. May your memories be a blessing.
And when you look in our streets still, or in the capitals of Europe, celebrating Hamas, not just attacking Israel, which is bad enough, but celebrating Hamas. In the capitals of Europe, in the capitals, well, in our own country, and at the United Nations and so forth, 2-state solution? Are you kidding me? Hamas will take over again. Palestinian Authority? Why do you think Hamas says the Palestinian Authority could take over Gaza? Because they're one and the same, effectively. They just fight over power. Now, well, there's a individual who's appointed at the UN. The United Nations really should be thrown out of the United States. It's not what it was supposed to be, and we're not united with these terrorist regimes and these diabolical regimes. I've been saying over and over and over again in the course of decades, we need to create our own so-called, I think, free states organization, where we're at least coming from the same ballpark, same field, not these genocidal regimes and so forth. We can create an international, if you will, organization that discusses things. That's perfectly fine without legal powers over sovereign states. It can be done, and I don't have a problem with it as long as it's free countries, or at least countries that believe in some level of democracy, whether they're parliamentarian or republics or whatever, it doesn't matter. I mean, to have communist China and fascistic Russia with veto power over basic stuff is ridiculous. They're the enemy. They're the enemy. At the UN, they've appointed somebody to a senior position. Albanese is her name. Albanese is basically the UN appointee who oversees, quote, the occupied Palestinian territories. What occupied Palestinian territories? Israel, of course. This is the United Nations. This is the United Nations. Somebody at some point has to have the guts to pull out of the United Nations. Even if it's not in our lifetime, somebody's got to do it. But let's take a look at this. Erin Molan talking about this woman, Albanese. Albanese, appointed, I guess, by the UN Secretary General, among others. They even have a communist title, Secretary General. What the hell is that? And you've got a real big anti-American, anti-Israel, anti-Semite who's in that position now. But let's take a look at this. Go.
To the Middle East, and our favourite warrior for peace, Francesca Albanese, has, and I kid you not, demanded that the US and Israel, and I quote, make plans to offer reparations to the Palestinian people. Okay, so my bar is low here, right, with her, and I clearly have zero expectations when it comes to this woman, but even this I thought was far-fetched. Too much even for her. A parody account, maybe. So I checked. No, it was her. Potentially, the meaning of the word reparations had changed since I last used it, because the definition I had from the Oxford Dictionary was the action of making amends for a wrong one has done. I checked the Oxford Dictionary, and no, it still means exactly that. So the United Nations rep, Albanese, would like the US and Israel to make amends for the wrong they have done. How about this, Francesca? Why don't Hamas and all those in Gaza who took part in October 7, including those who cheered as the dead bodies of young women were paraded by, make amends first for the following? The atrocities they committed, the murderous killing spree against men, women and children that resulted in the biggest loss of Jewish life since the Holocaust. The hundreds of hostages they dragged back into tunnels and tortured, some, including babies, still there 500 days later. The thousands of their own women and children they used as human shields and launch pads for missiles aimed straight at Israel. And starting this whole bloody thing. And then, only then, might your request be considered. Side note, even then, it will be wholeheartedly rejected. Maybe you could save yourself the wasted time trying to do that and have a look at some of the testimony directly out of the mouth of former hostage Amit. Remember on Piers Morgan when you refused to concede Hamas would ever dare do such a thing?
If rape occurred, it should have been investigated, prosecuted, and the responsible people
but the
should be
UN
held to
says
justice.
it did happen.
No, the point is, no,
you
the
work
UN
at the UN.
said, no, the UN, the UN is there are political appointees and then human rights appointees, and the Commission of Inquiry concluded that there was in June that there was no evidence to support the claims of gang rape. But let's assume, I don't want to say anything that I've not investigated, so let's assume that rape occurred. So does it justify what Israel has done?
Well, Amit says, and I quote, "A Hamas terrorist dragged me and forced me to perform a sexual act on him. After I went to shower, he pressed a gun to my forehead. He hit me and forced me to drop the towel. He touched me and sat in the bathtub and hit me again." Well, or do you not believe her?
The horrendous things that have been done to these hostages, many of whom are dead, is just unspeakable, and yet we need to speak about it because it's a mentality. You know, it's not a geography thing. Well, they need their own land. Well, they shouldn't live here. They ought to live there, and so forth. It's not a geography thing. It's never a geography thing. This is an ideology. People are being indoctrinated one generation to the next. That's the problem. It has nothing to do with geography. Why do you think none of the Arab countries want these people? None of them. Because they know that they will foment revolution. They know that they're not going to be contributing to the society. Look, my comments should not be controversial. We're seeing this play out right in front of our eyes. Tell me, how many Arab countries have condemned what happened to those two babies and that mother? As far as I know, not one. How many are going to? None. Will the United Nations? No. No. That's the nature of the beast that we're dealing with here.
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.